On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks season is in the tank. It's not gone the way anybody had expected this season would go. But I'll tell you, the trade for Luka Doncic is not the biggest reason why it's like this. I'll tell you why. Today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm going to get a city like that.
Dogs, all of us, all five.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Still can't leave me alone.
Your team every day.
Gotta be born with it, dog blood.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager, covering the Dallas Mavericks for 10 years. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On Mavs your first listen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And joining me, as always, my co-host, media member covering the Dallas Mavericks for 10 years alongside me, the injury intern, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
We might be injured after Tuesday night tomorrow.
Why? Because someone's gonna fight us?
No. I'm super excited for this live show. Tuesday night, Four Corners. I'm ready.
This is the first one you've done with us, right?
We've done two. I've done one.
Okay. Oh, that's right. We did one before this season. Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's at Four Corners Brewery, 7 p.m. Come hang out with us Tuesday, the day before the Luka and the Lakers come to town. The Mavs play them. And so today's episode, we're going to get into why the Mavs season is the way that it is. It's been a disaster, but there's a bunch of different reasons why it's been a disaster. And let's start here. I don't think the Luka trade, Nico's trade, is the biggest reason why this season is as bad as it is. It's the reason why you feel as bad as it is. But if you look at the Mavericks
team. Why are
team,
you looking into the camera right now? I feel like you're like...
It's the reason why you feel so bad about this season. The reason why the Mavericks are
call
30.
This number 1-800 to donate today. If you
Cars for Kids. The Mavs are 38-41. They're 10th seed now after the Kings beat the Cavs the other day inexplicably. The Mavs are going to play in a play-in game. The Mavs have never played in a play-in game. And the reason why the Mavericks are not fighting for a playoff spot right now is not because of the trade specifically. Because you even go back to before the trade, the Mavericks were struggling. Luka had missed the entire preseason. He had only played in 22 out of 49 games before the trade. The Mavs were only 13-9 in those games. The Mavs were struggling before this. The trade makes it all feel worse all over the place. And then there's a bunch of other reasons behind it. But to me, I think the reason why the Mavericks season is as bad of a disaster as it is, record-wise and on the court and everything, is because of the injuries. And some of the injuries the Mavs could have controlled potentially. We'll talk about some of the trade issues, but some of them are just out of their control. And it adds on to how ridiculously awful feeling of a season this has been.
Yeah, if you just take Luka and AD out of it, and you just like go down through the lineup, and it's like, all right. I mean, I when I did a thing about Clay the other day, I was talking about how he was second on the team in games played. First on the team was Dinwiddie. And the last time I checked, I think fourth or fifth was Omax. And which is, pretty tough just considering where he's at in the rotation, and he's out for the year too. So it's not just about the main player being out. It's also, PJ's missed a decent amount of time. Dereck Lively with the foot injury. Like, we could go all day.
I'm going to go all day. Kyrie missed 11 out of 50 games before the trade. He's going to play in 50 out of 82 games this season. Dereck Lively he missed 18 games pre-trade, and he's missed 27 games post-trade, and none of that had to do with the trade at all. PJ missed 7 games pre-trade. He's missed 17 games post-trade. So the Mavs just completely went to the tank because of missing those guys. Gafford only missed 2 games pre-trade, but 23 games missed after the trade. Exum missed 48 games before the trade, 13 games now and counting after the trade. It's just, you go down the line, like you said, and they were just missing so many key parts of this team that we never really got to see what this team should be fully healthy. And then the trade happens, and it just made everything worse. It was definitely a multiplier. It compounded everything. But to me, I think the injuries are the reason why the Mavericks as a team and as the season, like just looking at on the court, the reason why they are where they are is because of how many terrible injuries they had. And I think that's going to be a footnote in this season. When we look back to the season, we'll be like, man, that was the season they traded Luka and everything was a disaster. I think the injury should be noted on here that I think that was the biggest reason why it's so bad.
Yeah, I think it's really close. I really debated on the injuries part being the number one reason why this season's the way it is, but I just couldn't get past the trade. I know feelings are attached to it, but I look at it, and for me, a huge chunk of the reason why is the amount of time in which Luka immediately came back post trade, and then how long it took for AD to play. Like,
yeah,
that's one of my things. It's like feels like they had so much time with Luka playing post trade before AD even came. I mean, we got a half of AD, and then we just now came back a few games. 6-7 games ago. So, you look at Luka, and I know we could talk about the first half of that season because I think they went 13-17 in the 30 games they got out of him. I could be wrong on that one. No, not 30 games. Was it 22 games?
Yeah, Luka played 22 games for the Mavs. 13-9.
10-9.
13-9.
13-9. We could talk about the in shape and all the different stuff, but it's like what we're seeing with Luka right now over the past few weeks, and I get it. Lakers media, I mean, it's insane right now. Like, he has a bad game, and it's I'm seeing some crazy takes, but then he has then he looks like normal Luka, and it's like, all right, Lakers title, and I just love the pendulum swinging there. But I'm just more convinced of, and I know we'll probably talk about the effect on Kyrie too, and I know they have adamantly came out and was like, it has nothing to do with work, minutes and workload and all the stuff on Kyrie, it played a part into his injury and all that stuff. But if we were going to get Luka back right then, instead of making the trade, and you got Luka from then on through this entire time since the trade until now, I don't know. I just feel like we're in a much better spot. Like, I feel like we're a little higher in the standings. There's a couple of those role players in the rotation and starter stuff. Do they come back a little bit sooner because there's more to play for at that point?
Do you know where the Lakers and the Mavs were before the trade in the standings?
I mean,
the reason why it feels so much worse is because the Lakers are so much higher than where the Mavericks are. The Lakers were 9 games above 500. They were 5th in the West before the trade. The Mavs were 8th, and they were only 3 games above 500. And so the Lakers had a better record when they got Luka and when the Mavericks got AD. And then
I get that, but
the injuries just made it so much worse. I mean, is AD's injury? I think the Mavs trading for injured players, both Caleb Martin and AD, we'll talk about in a little bit, that contributed to it. But they're just missing so many guys that, and I'm focusing just on the basketball. I want to make this clear. Yes, the trade has made this a disaster in just overall season, fans, reaction, all that. But I'm just talking about where the Mavericks are as a team, the basketball team. I think the injuries is just so it's that has a bigger factor to me than just flipping Luka and Anthony Davis.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to do the standings thing like Lakers and Mavs, because then you don't know if AD still gets hurt. Like, you can't play that what if.
Yeah, he was hurt. He was hurt when they got traded, but as he re-aggravated and miss all the games. I mean, he missed 28 games now post trade.
Exactly. So, like, do the Lakers plummet at that point? Because then they wouldn't have Luka at all either. So it's not as much about the record. It's the fact for me that I think we would have had some Luka magic over the past month or so. We're feeling a little bit better. Even if the Kyrie injury happened, like, we would still be watching Luka. We wouldn't be saying like, hey, it's finals, it's championship, all this stuff still. But we've also seen Luka carry some rosters to the playoffs and stuff, and make some noise and all of that. So I don't know. And then just see him against OKC on Sunday. I couldn't watch too much of it because it's like, one, I thought it was funny because like OKC still doesn't have an answer for him. They still can't guard him.
When he's hitting his threes and they're shooting the ball well, I mean, that team can be unbeatable. You've got 3 guys that can score on all 3 levels.
Yeah. So I lean the trade barely over injuries, but I'm with you with a lot of the injuries too.
If we had Luka on this 38-41 team right now, just switch them back, and all the injuries stayed the same,
they wouldn't be 38-41.
You don't think so?
No.
No, but let's say that they did. Let's say they were 38-41. Let's say Luka missed a bunch of games.
Okay.
And like his calf injury kept him out a little longer. They're 38-41. You have Luka instead of Anthony Davis.
Yes.
Do you still have hope for this season then?
I mean, what's like winning a title without Kyrie? No, but making a deep playoff run? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would too. And so that kind of like emphasizes how crazy this trade has been and how terrible the season has been. Coming up, the trade is another reason why the Mavs season is what it is. I think it's the second biggest thing, but there's a lot of factors into why the Mavs season is the way that it is. And now that we're looking at Luka coming in to play the Mavericks, we'll talk about why the trade made a huge impact on this Mavs team this season coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by one of my favorites, Monarch Money. I've been using Monarch Money. I love that Monarch Money allows you to put all your different accounts into one spot. I love that you're able to manage a bunch of different things. You're able to look at your investments, your mortgage. You're able to look at your 401k. Maybe you don't want to look at your 401k, but you can, and you can in Monarch Money if you want to. You can look at all that kind of stuff, savings account and all that kind of stuff. You can split up your savings account into different goals, which I love. I got to have the different sections like that. But you don't just manage your money. You start building wealth with Monarch Money. They have surprising insights on all different kinds of things. You say, hey, I want to do this, and they'll show you different things you can do. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at Monarch Money for 15% off your first year. That's Monarch Money. Great way to manage your money, manage your different accounts, and also build wealth. MonarchMoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners, and we'll be bringing those listeners with us to Four Corners Brewery on Tuesday, April 8th, when we'll be hanging out, 7 p.m. We're going to be hanging out and do a live show, and we'll answer some questions. We'll be there. We'll hang out with you guys. It's a good way for us to just meet you guys, to hang out, talk about how we're feeling about this season. And that's what we're talking about today, is how this season has been such a disaster for the Mavericks on the court, considering how much of a disaster it is off the court. The trade has made this season a disaster, absolutely, for sure. One of my big points I put is they sent Luka away. I think the Mavs would have won more games if they had Luka instead of Anthony Davis. Absolutely, I think. They also got back an injured Anthony Davis when he was traded. And they traded for an injury-prone guy. So the trade brought it upon himself. You can't say, well, would AD have gotten hurt if they hadn't gotten traded, blah, blah, blah. But you did bring an injury-prone guy in for this trade as the centerpiece, the one like guaranteed piece you're getting back. And so the season is a disaster because Nico made the wrong bet like over and over again. And this is like, he made a wrong bet for this season and for like the next 5 seasons probably.
Yeah, I mean, if we're like power ranking people for why the season's the way that it is, I mean, I think Nico's right at the top. I think the moment that Nico decided to make this season about Nico and not about, you know, the franchise and the roster and the fans, I think that's the moment it shifted to be about Nico. And I mean, we've talked about the trade a million times, so I do think it would be a little bit different right now.
Amazing analysis, just hitting it on the head.
I mean, I just don't want to go down the whole spiel again. I mean, okay,
listen,
so if we're power ranking Nico,
Luka's coming in town. We're going to go down the whole spiel a couple more times before this happens. You know?
Saving it for the brewery, all right? No, we have Nico, and then, I mean, you have to put right behind Nico, Patrick Dumont.
For sure.
I mean, if we're power ranking, I wrote down like 6 different things as far as like, hey, reasons why the season's the way that it is. And it's like, I get it that it's Nico that made the decision and all the different stuff, but like, you know, Dumont had to sign off on it, and he had to agree to it. And he had to, when Nico was pitching him on it and all the stuff, instead of getting all these, you know, different other opinions and, you know, all the different stuff. I mean, he could have
any opinions.
He could have.
That was in Stein's story today, that like one of the things that was crazy about this whole thing is that Patrick Dumont doesn't have a network of NBA people to look to for some of these things. He doesn't have contacts. He doesn't have, you know, peers to go to and say, hey, I'm considering this, or we're considering this as a team, and for them to look at him and say, that's crazy, you should never do that in any way. He just doesn't have that. And Cuban, for all his flaws, obviously did.
I was gonna say, it's like, I mean, for whatever you want to say about Mark Cuban was like, I don't have a clue about real estate. All right, so I can't do the real estate game, and I think that real estate is, and a new arena and all the different stuff is like the next phase of the Mavericks' future. And there's other reasons and stuff he's talked about why he sold the team, but it's like that was one of the reasons. It's like, hey, they have all the experience in that. You wish that it was kind of the other way around, to where Dumont's like, yes, I know about casinos and real estate and all of that. I don't know about basketball. So can anybody talk to me about basketball? I mean, heck, call up some of these people that have like the ultimate work ethic and culture setters, and like Shaq, and sorry, I couldn't call up the people you listed.
Great culture guys like Michael Jordan.
Call up the players you listed, but yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable. Like, it's those two guys at the top for why the season's the way that it is.
Yeah, I threw another whole thing in there. Cuban selling the team made this season the way that it is, because he wouldn't have ever traded Luka. We know that. He also said he never would have. He never would sell the team, though. So I don't know if I can hold him to that. I think we also know that it's been reported that the Mavs were not going to give him Luka the max contract. They were not going to give him the Supermax deal. So I don't know how far back that goes, to where Cuban was in charge of the team and in charge of basketball operations and all that. But it was mentioned a couple times in Mark Stein's great story today. If you're subscribed to his Substack, it's a must for every Mavericks fan, Mavericks adjacent fan, whatever you consider yourself right now. There's a bunch of stuff about Cuban in this. And one of the things was talking about Cuban thought he was going to have the control of basketball operations when he sold the team. He said, and then the sale of the team was what opened the door for Nico Harrison to seize a level of control over basketball operations. Quote from Mark Stein here: "There was no shortage of skepticism league-wide about Cuban's assertions that he was going to continue to have final say over basketball matters. Yet the reported purchase price of $3.5 billion for the team, less than Cuban could have fetched by his own admission to this day had he put the Mavericks up for auction, was often mentioned early as a byproduct of that supposed promise." Cuban sold the team for less because he thought he was going to have basketball control. And if he had basketball control, or if he didn't sell the team at all, this trade doesn't happen, and then we're not here at all. It goes like, you want to take it all the way back there. Like, I can take it all the way back there and say that if Cuban didn't sell the team, this season is not the way that it is, which is crazy to think about, the butterfly effect.
Yeah, the Cuban angle is more difficult for me than any of the other angles. Just because
to accept.
No, just because, I mean, it's going to really come across like I'm a shill here for Cuban, but it's,
I mean, do we want to talk about what you did last
year? Because it's like, I don't know. I've just been in the camp this whole time of like, if somebody wanted to sell the franchise, like, they can sell the freaking team. Like, I don't get that part of like being mad at Mark of like, you're like, you suck because you decided to sell the team. It's like, there's some financial side, background to some of it. Like, if you wanted, there's some other stuff with that. It's like the family stuff, whatever reasons that he wanted to give for the reason why he sold the team. Okay. Like, you have that. There's some things that Mark did while he owned the team that you're like, man, yeah, I probably wouldn't did it that way. But you know what? He's a freaking owner. Like, he can do it because you can do stuff.
Well, we could say the same exact thing about Nico Harrison making the trade. There's a lot of other reasons. There's a lot of things he had, but hey, you're the GM, you're the president of basketball operations. We're
talking about selling the team though, compared to a trade.
Well, I know it's a different level. You can talk about.
He's giving up his power. He's giving up all this stuff. He's selling out
in a different way. He also chose who he sold the team to. He didn't have to relinquish control because the NBA Donald Sterling to him and said, hey, you've got to sell this team because of things that you did and stuff. He made that choice, and because he made that choice to sell the team, there are consequences to it. He handed the team over, hired Nico, then handed the team over to somebody, by his admission several times, you mentioned this piece too, not a basketball family that understands basketball in any way. Yeah. Dumont doesn't have a group of people that he goes to talk about basketball things, or at least in the NBA. And so for Cuban to then leave control to them, he kind of left his house to somebody. He sold his house to somebody that wasn't going to take care of it. And you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, why is this house such a disaster? This is my childhood home, and all of a sudden it's a disaster because you left it to people that didn't know how to take care of it.
But is any of that part of like, hey, you can't help, and you never know what they're going to do after that. Of like, he knew the next phase for the Mavericks was a new arena, the new big thing here in Dallas, and all the stuff. He's like, I don't have that experience. There's some finance side background to it of like, all right, I can recoup some money here. And then there's like the family aspect of it. So he's looking at it and it's like, all right, these guys are going to come in, build this massive arena and all the stuff and do the thing. And yeah, I think it's my time. And then bam, he gets out of it. And then they make the stupidest trade that we've ever seen. And it's like, I don't know. And until like it's just my whole thing is treating him with the same amount of blame as Nico and Patrick Dumont. That's what I don't get. Some people are, and I'm not there at all.
So you're not in the camp that, okay, so you leave a child alone with the stove burner on, right? It's not the person that left the child alone. It's the child's fault.
Stove burners, no. You're comparing a stove burner to Patrick
Well,
Dumont.
I'm also comparing them to children. I'm saying that he left them in charge, but
and leave the politics out of it, of Dumont and all the stuff out of it. Just the fact of like, hey, business person, he's leaving it to that person to like build the arena and like all the stuff. And
Cuban had also seen how, and Stein mentioned this in the story a couple times, how Nico had like slowly removed the people in charge, or people that had moved like the guardrails in charge. You know, Dennis Lindsay had left. You had Casey Smith, who Nico Harrison moved out into a different role, and then he eventually left. He started to see these guardrails start to move away. That all of a sudden, this is how Nico seized power, and this is how he made one of the most shocking trades in sports history. And so I think that Cuban he had seen that road, and he wanted his cake he wanted to get his cake and eat it too. Then he didn't get it because he didn't get it. He doesn't get the thing in writing, and then all of a sudden something insane happens. And
is it weird that I think you can hold the hirings of Nico and Kidd against him more than the selling to the Dumonts and Adelsons?
Yes, that's crazy, because at least Nico did some good things. I mean and Nico's in basketball, and Kidd was an NBA coach before. He sold to people that didn't have any assets in sports that I know of. They weren't. But
people do that though. Like owners come in and don't have assets in the sports and still don't make dumb stuff like this.
So you're just saying that he was just ignorant of what they were going to do, and there's just
trading Luka. Yes, until I see something before he sold, they were like, "Hey, we might trade Luka." So, then let's put it all on him. Like
you still have to trust them. Do you think Cuban just trusted the Dumont Adelson group?
Why does he have to trust them?
Because he's the one. Well, he's now going all around saying
he's getting his money.
Yeah, but he trusted them to give him basketball operations control, and they didn't. And so
that part, yes, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And trust to take care of the thing that he cared about the most in life, besides his family, probably.
Yeah,
and they let it touch the stove.
I mean, he kind of gave that up the moment he was like, "I'm gonna sell." Like,
this is what I'm saying.
I don't know. I don't. It's like, I don't know. It's like somebody can decide when they want to give up something that they own and like make $3.5 billion.
When it comes to Mark Cuban, the easiest thing he could have done was nothing.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Mark, you shouldn't have sold the team. You should have held on to it. It's like, cool, let me tell you what you should do with your asset.
I'm not saying he's more at fault than Nico. Let's be or Dumont. Let's be clear about that. We mentioned the trade first.
Yeah.
But I think Cuban played a part in this, and it was maybe unintentional. Sure, unintentional. He thought he was doing the right thing, leaving it in control for them so that they could build the arena and all that. But he left it in the hands of people that did this. And so now you have to look at, all right, well, why was this allowed to happen? How did Nico get this much power? How did Dumont agree to this? Why did Dumont agree to this deal? Because he doesn't know basketball, doesn't have a support group, and that's the group that Cuban let this team. Like, this is the group that's leading the Mavericks right now. Coming up,
coming up. I have somebody else to blame. That will give y'all some comments, I'm sure.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. I hope you took UConn and future Dallas wing Paige Beckers because they were like a 6.5 point favorite on there. And so hopefully you took that because they dominated that game.
I watched that game
on Sunday. Oh, just incredible. Now you got the men's tournament. You got Florida, 1.5 point favorite against Houston. That is a close one. Who you got in that one?
I want Houston, but I'll take Florida.
Houston's got some team of destiny. The way that Duke just choked against them, you're like, man,
Loved it.
would the basketball gods allow that to happen and them to lose? Right now, when you join FanDuel, place your first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Check out FanDuel. There's all kinds of great stuff you can do, not just college. You can also do NBA, pro, and all kinds of other sports. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com. Claim $250 in bonus bets today.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Isaac. We're talking about reasons why the Mavericks season is what it is. And we wanted to focus on the basketball side of it. Obviously, we got sidetracked with the trade because it's just the crazy things that ever happened. But who else is to blame?
I mean, let's just rip the Band-Aid off for a second. Luka's to blame. I mean, when we haven't, I don't care. I'll do it for a second. Whenever we're in year 7 and you still haven't showed up to training camp and everything in tip-top shape and doing your thing and being a superstar and all the stuff, and then it does play a role into some injuries, and you miss all those games before you do get the calf injury, which is what, the 4th or 5th one again. And then you miss all those games. Does all the stuff, once again, I'm just saying, it isn't worth you trading Luka Doncic. But if Luka takes care of his body a little bit more and is a little bit more, let's take a page out of Nico Harrison's book here, Mamba mentality.
Oh no.
And is a little bit less injured, the season's a little bit different, right? Like, he's way down the list, but I mean, he has to at least be on the list a little bit, right? Is he completely off the hook?
I think I've never disagreed with you more. Maybe
Before the
trade.
Before the trade,
You're gonna
about Luka?
We're gonna blame.
What were we saying?
Well, we're gonna blame his injuries on his conditioning.
You don't think it plays a role?
It probably plays a little bit of a role in it,
because I know once you get online, everybody's just got to be like, oh, it's either direct one, injured because you're out of shape. It's not always direct, but it does play a part in it. That is like part of it.
I feel like it's more that he just pushed himself so much. Ironically, the Mamba mentality of him going all through the playoffs and playing through all those injuries probably had more of a case than his conditioning. Maybe if he was better conditioned, then maybe he pushed himself and it's different. Like, I don't know. I'm not Dr. Brian Suter over here trying to tell you I'm trying to tell Luka how to use his body, but I'm not here to blame the victim on this one. I'm not here to blame Luka for this season. Him being injured before, I think I'll blame his injury, but I'm not sure I'm going to go all the way to blame him for how this season has turned out. And to blame him for getting traded.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying before you go to the beginning of the season, what were conversations we were having? The ref stuff's still happening. They're not getting back on defense.
Did the ref stuff affect the Mavs, like, wins and losses?
It does when it affects your best player. Yeah.
I don't think it. Unless he's missing games for techs.
But can you admit that before the Christmas Day injury game, we were still like, this isn't like a great start to Luka's season? No,
it wasn't.
Okay. So you ride or die by your best player. We know this when Anthony Davis goes down. So am I like that's I'm not saying it's the same as all the other ones, but if we're making a list, he at least has to be on the list. And I'm putting him at the bottom. I'm not putting him above any. I put Kid above him. I put, Cuban, injuries, definitely Dumont and Nico, but he's at least got to be on the list.
Interesting. I have a couple other things on my list.
Okay. The
other West teams are the reason why the season is what it is. The Suns and Kings sucking as much as the Mavs could have just shut it down. But the Suns and Kings have been so bad that it's put the Mavs in the situation where they're like, well, let's bring AD back. Let's bring Lively back. Let's bring these guys back and try and go for this play. They could have just shut it down and the Mavs would be tanking and we'd be like, all right, let's just pack it up. We're going home. But because the Suns and Kings have been so bad, the Mavs have now been forced into the spot. Wemby's injury too, Pelicans injury too. The Mavs are like in this position and where they are.
That's true. I thought when you're starting to say it was like you were talking about the top of the West, but you're talking about because of the injuries at the bottom. It's like defaulted the Mavs into this participation tournament.
Honestly, my last one was the other moves that the Mavs made. So with the trade itself, the Mavs fundamentally changed the team build, right? Just completely fundamentally changed it overnight. And so then
we both think the Martin Grimes trade still happens, right?
Probably, but I also
think it 100% still happens.
But
the moment Grimes and them didn't agree on the contract, he was getting traded.
But the fact that they did it, they sent away Grimes, which I think was, again, I still hold that it was a mistake. And Martin was injured when they traded for him, so it's another like smaller reason why this season is what it is. Maybe Grimes is scoring 20 points a game for this team when all these guys are out. The Mavs also just didn't add another offensive creator at all in all of this. They didn't make that other move. And so when you fundamentally change what your team is, now all of a sudden when the team does play, you're missing that guy. And then when you lose the one offensive creator that you could really count on in Kyrie, then all of a sudden you're just fresh out of luck. And that's where the Mavs are right now.
Yeah, that's definitely where they're at right now. I don't have anything else.
Fresh out of luck right there. You'll hear us all talk about all this, and you can give your thoughts and all that at Four Corners Brewery on Tuesday. We'll be doing that, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. We'll be back tomorrow with another show breaking down the big things we're looking for in the Mavs versus Lakers game, because that is a absolutely big one. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Guys, go check out the LockedOnDaily.com Mavs newsletter. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.
See you guys at the lottery.